Okay, so today's presentation is Dojo Basics 1. So in fact, today is the first day we are going to learn Dojo. So these are what we are going to cover, what is and why we want to use Dojo Toolkit, and then we're going to spend some time on loading Dojo, and then we're going to learn some basic Dojo APIs, and then we're going to learn event handling. Okay, so let's move on. By the way, these are 3 websites you can go to for tutorials and examples and demos. Okay? In fact, I would recommend going to this website. This is probably the best. Okay? dojotoolkit.org and documentation. If you go to this website, you're going to actually see a lot of sample applications, starting with Hello Dojo, and these are all up to date with 1.7. Okay, so I strongly recommend to take a look at that website. And other websites give you the reference guides with some samples and demos, and same thing with this one. This one has not been updated with this 1.7 yet. Okay. All right, so let's move on. So what is and why Dojo Toolkit? So Dojo Toolkit is one of those popular JavaScript toolkit library, and it does have a pretty comprehensive feature set, and it does come with a rich widgets as well. And it's considered high quality, high performance, and proven in the marketplace, and easy to learn. And you can actually use only pieces you want. I think there was actually misperception out there that Dojo is heavy. However, you don't have to use all of those. You can just use minimal dojo.js, which is basically 30.6K. This is the latest version. If you actually go to this website, in fact, you can actually download the smallest dojo.js file, which is again about 31K. Okay, and that does a lot of things. Okay, so this is Dojo. You can just copy it, and it's well structured. It does have a core, and then widgets and extras. Extras are basically some technologies that are not yet part of the part of the package, but is somewhat experimental, and it has pretty active developer community, and of course, it's open source. Okay, question from Visal. Is 1.7 the latest version of Dojo in the market? Yes, 1.7.2. So Dojo architecture. So this is basically Dojo architecture here. We have a base and you have a core, and then you have a digit, which is the widget sets, and Dojo X, that is the experimental the technologies, and then you can have your own custom widgets, and it does come with a lot of utilities as well. So Dojo Toolkit is made of 3 parts, which I just talked about. Dojo is actually a combination of base and core. So, the basic functionality that you typically use, for example, browser normalization, package, DOM access and manipulation, and data access, drag and drop, AJAX, JSON. These are all basic functionality that come with the base and core. Okay, and then digit is widgets, and Dojo X is again some advanced technologies. Okay, moving forward, let's talk about loading Dojo. So there are 2 options for loading Dojo, and one option is loading from content delivery network, and option 2 is loading it from locally installed version. So let's talk about the CDN. So if you are loading Dojo from CDN, basically it provides a geographic edge caching. So, regardless where you are located, you should be able to get the Dojo in a reasonably fast fashion. And it's compressed, and it also is actually providing cross-domain build. So this is the way that you can access CDN-based Dojo. So basically, you're going to actually use a Google, the location where you can get the dojo.js file. Option 2 is locally available Dojo, so you can download it and then you can install it either in the doc root of your web server, and that's obviously one-time installation, or you can install it as part of your web application, and then you provide the location of your dojo.js file like this. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Now, what is cross-domain Dojo? So cross-domain Dojo build is one which can be loaded from the server other than the one where the application deployment occurs. And cross-domain Dojo could be either custom build or CDN. So we're going to actually talk about the concept of cross-domain and as well as JSON-P later on as one of the topics. So it's actually, the JavaScript that comes from a particular server cannot access any other domain. Okay, so that is in fact the constraint imposed on the JavaScript. And but if you're actually trying to build some mashup application, obviously you want to actually go to different server, right? So that is actually something that is actually constrained for any JavaScript code. So we're gonna actually talk about that constraint and how you can actually solve it in cross-domain and JSON-P presentation later on. Okay, so let's move on to Dojo Loader API and AMD API. So actually, we're going to actually cover AMD API. So we're going to actually cover AMD here today a little bit, and then we're going to cover AMD in a bit more detail later on in Dojo Advanced, in which we are going to talk about module system and then AMD-based module system. So Dojo Loader APIs are actually in two different categories. AMD, by the way, it stands for Asynchronous Module Definition, and it's introduced actually 1.6, actually 1.7. Okay, it's used in 1.6 code, but it's introduced to you in 1.7, and it's recommended API from 1.7 for you. And then there is a legacy API, which is using Dojo Require and Dojo Provide and things like that. And these are still supported in 1.7. Okay, so you still have a backward compatibility. So what is and why AMD API? So AMD API is actually designed from Dojo 1.7 mainly to various actually advantages. It dramatically improved the code portability and interpretability. So basically, modules written to AMD specification can be used with any other AMD compliant loader or library, such as Node.js. Okay, so it's actually compatible, and it allows modules to be loaded asynchronously. So modules can be downloaded asynchronously and concurrently. So it could actually speed up the loading time up to 10x. And so AMD API is a preferred loader API, and is expected to expose through two global functions: require and define. So define is used for defining your module, and require is actually used to use the modules. Okay, so we're gonna actually mostly focus on require in this presentation because we want to actually use modules. Okay. Later on, again, in the Dojo Advanced, we'll talk about how you can define your own module using this define function. Okay, so this is an example of require. So require is used to configure the loader to load AMD modules that you want to use. So syntax is like this. You say require. Again, this is actually global function, so you don't have to actually do any any extra. You can just take the require, and then you specify configuration. Then you specify you specify typically 2 or 3 things. Okay, typically you're going to specify dependencies and callback. So dependencies are the modules that you want to load before you can actually invoke this callback function. So in this case, what you're saying is that I want to have a Dojo DOM module and Dojo DOM ready module, and in this case, the exclamation mark. I'll talk about this one later on a bit more. I want these 2 modules to be loaded before I can run this function. Okay, so that's basically the syntax. So this is the AMD syntax, and we'll talk about the non-AMD syntax in a few minutes. Okay, so let's move on to Dojo manipulation via Dojo by ID and more. So, Dojo by ID is, again, it's the same thing as document.getElement by ID. So, in our last week presentation, we talk about $, the function in prototype. And in Dojo, it's actually Dojo by ID. Okay, so when you're actually trying to access an element using document.getElement ID, you want to use Dojo by ID. Okay, and there are other DOM manipulation examples, such as attribute. You can set a node to have a new ID and create the dev element, create and place, add some ID to the node, some other ID as a first child. So these are subset of DOM manipulation APIs from Dojo. And we'll actually take a look at these things when we do the hands-on lab. Okay, so question from the Lakshmikant. Can you give me an example of the AMD? Yeah, again, we're going to actually play around with the hands-on lab, and we'll see examples of AMD and non-AMD case. In fact, we're going to actually see examples here. So deferring script execution until DOM is ready. So, you probably have seen the case that, you have to wait until DOM is ready before you can execute your JavaScript code. Okay? Otherwise, you are going to experience undefined node, okay? Because DOM is not loaded completely when you're actually executing your JavaScript code. So you want to execute your JavaScript code after DOM is loaded, meaning you want to wait your execution until DOM is completely loaded. So in Dojo 1.7, this is accomplished using a special kind of module called the plugin. So plugin is kind of module in, again, Dojo 1.7 AMD. The style, and but its special functionality is only activated by adding an exclamation point to the end of the module identifier. So in fact, that is a DOM ready plugin. Okay, so when you're actually saying exclamation mark on DOM ready plugin, that means you want to load it, and then you want to actually activate some function of that plugin. In this case, DOM ready is that until DOM is ready, I don't want to actually execute my JavaScript code. Okay, so let's see examples of this. So there are 4 different options for deferring your script execution until DOM is ready. Okay, so option 1 is using DOM ready exclamation plugin, again using AMD API. Okay, so this is introduced again 1.7, and this is the most favored option moving forward. And option 2 is using Dojo.ready. This is the old API using AMD API, and you can use Dojo.ready using non-AMD API, and then you can also use Dojo add onload. This is deprecated. Okay, so it's not going to be supported from Dojo 2.0, but it's still actually being supported. Okay, so it's deprecated. So let's take a look at example of each of these. Okay. So option 1 is Dojo ready using AMD plugin. So this is an example. You say require. So we have just one single module, Dojo DOM ready, and you're also using a plugin. So it's, you have exclamation mark at the end, right? What that means is that I'm actually loading this module. At the same time, I'm activating this particular functionality of this module. In this case, what it means is that I want to actually execute this JavaScript code after the DOM is ready. Okay, so this is option 1. So again, this is AMD API style, and here I'm just specifying dependency, and in this case I'm using plugin, and then once this is the DOM is all loaded, and then I'm going to actually execute this function code. Okay, option 2 is DOM ready using AMD APIs. Again, we are still using the AMD API. So require, and then I specify Dojo ready. So here I'm not using Dojo, DOM ready plugin, but I'm actually using Dojo ready, the module. So the in AMD style API, basically you actually specify all the dependencies. We have only one dependency here, and then those modules will be passed as an argument to your function. So this ready is being passed as an argument to this function, and here now we're going to use the Dojo ready method. Okay, so Dojo ready method is the old API, still being supported in 1.7, but only way of it's actually the most up-to-date way of actually waiting your JavaScript execution until Dojo 1.6. Okay, so here I'm waiting. I'm actually waiting until the DOM is ready, and then I'm going to actually execute this function. Okay, so it's going to actually work in the same way. Okay, and third option is I'm not using AMD API anymore. I'm going to just use the old way of actually doing the getting ready. So here dojo.ready, and then I can, so what it means is that until DOM is ready, I'm not going to execute this function. So this is again work the same way as previous two options. Okay. Question from Niraj. DOM is ready means HTML document is completely loaded. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Okay. All right, option 4 here, you are using add-on node. Okay, so here you create a function and then you are actually again waiting until the DOM is completely loaded. Okay, so you can have this function inline here, but we create a function as external, the name function, and then we can invoke it like this. So this is option 4. Okay, all right, so let's actually try these things as a hands-on lab. Okay. So let's try undefined error condition here first. Okay, so this is the case that you are going to experience the undefined. Okay, because so here you're calling your function. Okay, so you're calling your function. And so your function is invoked and it's trying to get the greeting. Okay, so but when you're actually executing this JavaScript code, your DOM is not ready. Okay, meaning this greeting node is not ready. Okay, so when you are running this application, so let's try to open with the browser and press F12. You can see cannot read property in HTML of null. Okay, so this null means this node greeting has not been defined. Okay, so this is an error condition. So that's the reason you want to execute. You want to wait invoking this function until DOM is ready. Okay, so let's actually go through each of these schemes. So the first scheme is again using AMD style. So this is the code that I've shown you, right? Okay. So here I'm using AMD style, specifying require function, and this is I want to actually try to the first option. Yeah. So DOM ready plugin. So this is the one that I want to try first. So here I'm using AMD API style, and then these are the dependencies, but this is a plugin because it does have exclamation mark. So plugin means, in addition to loading this module, I'm also actually activating this particular module's functionality. In this case, what it means is that I won't wait until DOM is ready before I execute this function. So that's basically what it's doing. Okay, so let's run this code and it should work fine because we are executing. So DOM is ready through DOM ready plugin, so it works fine. Okay, so basically it's displaying this this message, right? Okay, the second option is we are going to try DOM ready the function again, still using AMD style. So that is the second option that we talked about. So here we are still using AMD style of require function, and this is the dependency. And your dependency is being passed an argument to your callback function. And so I'm actually basically calling dojo.ready method. Okay, and dojo.ready method meaning, again, you want to execute this function after DOM is ready. Okay, so again, if I run this code, okay, so it worked. All right, the next scheme is, now I'm not using the AMD style of API, but I'm going to use the old style of API. So that is the third option. So here I'm actually calling just dojo.ready. Okay, and then I'm basically calling this function. So what it means is that do not invoke this function until DOM is ready. Okay, again, it does work pretty much the same way in terms of result. So again, it worked. Okay. The last option is deprecated, add-on node, the function here. Okay, so here I am actually calling add-on node, and then you specify my function. So basically, you are saying until DOM is ready, I don't want to execute this function. So this is still work pretty much the same. even though it's actually using deprecated API like this. Okay, now a couple of other exercises that I want to do before move on is loading Dojo from CDN. So this is the case that we are loading Dojo from CDN. Okay, so the source is CDN, and then it does actually some, you know, the animation. So we're going to talk about these things later on in a bit more detail. So don't worry about the coding. I just want to actually see the CDN case. Okay, so here if I run this application, if I click this one, it's actually changing the color of the background and do some animation. Okay, now that is when I'm using CDN. Now this is the case I'm actually running the application, getting the Dojo.js from locally available to the Dojo.js. So I'm actually getting Dojo 1.7.2 Dojo.js in my application here. So I have it right here, Dojo 1.7.2 and Dojo, and then I have Dojo.js, right? Okay, all right. So here, you know, it should actually work pretty much the same. Okay, so that is it, and now let's move on to DOM query via the Dojo query. So you can actually perform query operation using Dojo.query. So basically, it will return Dojo list, the node list object. And you can also use a CSS selector for referencing the DOM nodes. Okay, so it's providing selection criteria. So this CSS selector is actually being used pretty much all the Java script libraries, including Dojo. So instead of, so this is the case that you are not using Dojo query. Instead, you are basically using get element by tag name and everything. So, you know, this is a little bit cumbersome API you're using, pretty low level API, and then you got the node set, and then you're basically, you know, doing something with that node list. Now, instead of doing that, you can actually say dojo.query and then .blue button. Yeah, so what it means is that, you know, I want to actually have all the nodes, all the element that has this blue button as a CSS style. Okay, and then I can do anything I want after that. So this is Dojo query, you know, that is being supported in Dojo 1.6 and below. This is again AMD style, so we're actually doing the same thing. So we are basically performing Dojo query. Okay, but this is AMD style. So again, I'm saying require, and then you specify the I should actually have the brace, the bracket. Okay, and then you're actually getting the you know, dependency. In this case, again, we have only one. Okay, and then it's basically again performing Dojo query. So this is actually the same thing as this. Okay. And this is the old programming style, yet, and this is actually new programming style using AMD programming style. Okay. Okay, moving forward. So these are the examples of CSS selector. So here you can perform Dojo query. So if you want to get all H3 elements, then you can specify H3 like this. If you want to get all H3 elements which are first child of their parent node, then you can say like this, H3 : first child. And here, if you want to get a node with an ID equals main, then you say # and main. Okay? And this is the case that all H3 elements within a node with an ID main. Okay? So these are, in fact, CSS, the selector notation. Okay, so it's not from Dojo, it's actually from CSS. Okay, so again, these notations are used in all JavaScript libraries, including jQuery, including Dojo. Okay, all right, moving forward. Node list and for each. So this is for array manipulation. So the node list is a subclass of array, and it adds synthetic sugar for chaining, common iteration operations, animation, and node manipulation. And as we have seen, this object type is actually returned as a result of performing Dojo query. Okay, so this is the case that set on-click handler for all lists, ordered and unordered, the elements. Okay, This is the case. I'm going to actually perform for each iterator over items in list, again ordered and unordered. Okay, so basically performing this function for each of these items selected, the queried from the Dojo query, and empty the the snippet. So here snippet is this, you're using the pound sign, and this is an ID of an element, and then you're going to just empty it. Okay, array manipulation. So it comes with a lot of other, the APIs. For each is probably the most useful. Index of, last index of, filter, map, sum, and every. So these are the APIs that you can actually use for array manipulation. So this is the for each. So here, let's say we have an array. Okay, so I have an apples, quiz, and pineapples, and then I am going to actually perform the for each operation. So the you specify the array object, and then you provide a function, and the function will take an item. So item will actually capture apples or quiz and pineapples, and I is index. Okay, so in this case we are basically creating the li element, and then we are actually setting the HTML. Okay. You can also actually use for each. You can actually chain the result of Dojo query with for each. So this is actually pretty powerful. Okay. So basically what I'm saying is that for every element class blue ribbon assigned, meaning every CSS class blue ribbon is assigned. All each of those elements, I want to perform this function. Okay, and that particular node will be captured as a node here. Okay. And here we are just displaying the HTML value of that node. Okay. Question from Michelle: should every function that uses Dojo have require AMD clause? Seems extraneous. No, it's not every function. Require is actually AMD style for specifying few things. For example, your dependencies and the function that you want to invoke. Okay, so it's not actually for every function. It's actually an API that you can actually use to specify dependencies and function to call. Okay, Dojo sum tell you whether an array has some of the asked values or not. So here we have an index here, and then we can say for this index of array object, I like to see whether I like to actually have them returned all the items that are greater than in this case 1 million. Okay, so let's move on. Yeah, I'm gonna actually try a few things. For example, here we have Dojo by ID, Dojo create for each. Let's try Dojo for each. So this is the code. So this is an array of these apples, and this is the array object, and then you perform this function, which is basically creating an li element with the in HTML with its values. Okay, so let's just run this code. Okay, so populate data, then it's just creating this list of items. Okay, let's see, Dojo query. So yeah, so this is the Dojo query. This is again AMD style. Okay, so this require is just the the new API style. That's all. Okay, so let's take a look at in this, and this is actually in fact doing the same thing. So let's take a look at the AMD style. So here, basically what you're saying is that, I'm loading this Dojo query module, also Dojo DOM ready module, but I'm also using this plugin, which means that, this code will not be executed until DOM is loaded. Okay. And then you are going to be able to get the name of that module as an argument. Okay. So here, basically I'm performing Dojo query, and so I like to find all the node that has this blue as the CSS style. So we have here we have blue has 2. So this number 2 and number 5, they are only 2 items that has this CSS style of blue. Okay. So so we're gonna actually when I perform this query operation, it will return these 2 items, this and this, as an array, And then I'm going to perform this function for each of them. So, basically I'm going to just add find by Dojo query to the inner HTML. Okay, so let's actually run this code. So you can see 2 and 5 has this, this string to be appended. Okay. If you want to try this one, maybe in this case, let's say red. Okay, then we are going to actually see just one, right? This guy. Okay, so that is, those are, yeah, so that's AMD style, and this is no AMD style. So this is the old way of actually doing things, okay? All right, so, here I'm actually using the style, calling those are ready. So I say those are ready and function. What that means is that until DOM is ready, I'm not going to actually execute this function, meaning when DOM is ready, I want to actually execute this function. So here again, we are doing the same thing, okay? We perform Dojo query, meaning find all the items that have the blue as CSS style, and then again we are doing the same thing. So here it's actually exactly the same code, except that I'm actually using non-AMD style API. So again, if I run this code, it should work exactly the same. Okay, so let's see. So we did that. Place, yeah, okay. So let's move on to event handling. Okay, so event handling via Dojo Connect. So JavaScript event handling is actually, every JavaScript code has event handling, right? So events are essential in JavaScript components because they drive user interface, user interaction. So in fact captured as an event, and then you're going to actually invoke some event handler, and it could result in AJAX request, and it could allow JavaScript components to interact with each other. Now, issues of JavaScript event handling. So as a number of JavaScript components in a page increases, the component code, meaning your event handler code, tend to become more tightly coupled. So they are becoming less maintainable. So, if you have a lot of on something handlers in your page, the small number of those is fine, but as the number of those handlers becoming, larger and larger in your page is becoming less maintainable. That's basically what you're talking about. Another problem of the JavaScript event handling is attaching multiple event handlers is hard. So if you actually attach the 2 event handlers, basically the first event handler will be lost, okay? And, it will just take the second event handler as the only event handler. So that's actually, second problem. Third problem is a cross-browsing event handling is difficult to write from scratch. So there are still some issues in terms of cross-browser support, okay? So basically, those are event handling scheme, and basically other JavaScript event handling scheme actually handles all these things for you, okay? So why Dojo event system? It abstracts the JavaScript event system. So basically, you are going to use Dojo.connect. So Dojo.connect is basically a function that you can use to set the event handling scheme. Okay. Treat every function call as an event that can be listened to. So far what you have seen so far is the DOM events, like the mouse click, the blur or whatever, those are all DOM events. However, you could actually have your function call to be considered as an event. Okay, so what that means is that when a particular function call is invoked, I want to actually have my event handler function to be invoked after that. Okay, which means the function call is considered as an event in addition to DOM events. It provides advanced event handling scheme. For example, it could be aspect oriented. So even your event handler could be called before or after. Okay, it's less unobtrusive. So setting of event handlers in DOM nodes happen without explicit on attribute on markup. So again, instead of using on something on your element, you can use the Dojo Connect. Okay. Okay, so Dojo Connect, basically what you say is a source object and source function and target function. So this is the way that you're going to set your event handler. and it's actually is the the only API that is actually something that is going to be used for event handling in Dojo. So it's a uniform API for all event handling. Okay, so it takes care of the details about touching more than one event handler. So it handles the multiple event handler for your element as well. Okay, so let's talk about the handling DOM events. So here we are talking about the when when page is loaded, Windows actually loaded, meaning DOM is ready. Basically, I'm gonna actually find my link, and then I'm gonna actually connect my handler. In this case, is my handler to on-click event of this the element. So this link is this link is my link, right? Okay. So whenever this link is clicked, my handler will be invoked. Okay. Example 2. So here we are using unnamed anonymous event handler. So here again, whenever this link is clicked, I'm going to invoke this function. Okay. So in this case, the function is anonymous event handler. Here attaching a method of an object and event handler. So here, this is the source. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So when the on-click event happens on this node, I want to call this handler method of this object. Okay. So instead of just explicit or the named function call, I can specify the property of this JavaScript object, and that property is a function. Okay, you can actually register multiple event handlers. So again, for the on-click event on this node, I wanna call this handler of this object, and also this handler of this object. So here, this handler and handler 2 are in fact they are chained. Okay, so this will be called first, and then this will be called next. Okay, chaining function calls. So here, so this is the case that when function call is invoked, that is considered as an event, and then your the event handler function will be invoked. So in this case, when source function of this object is invoked, I want to call target function of this target object. So this is an event handler still, okay? But event in this case is a call to a function rather than a DOM event. Okay, this is attaching a function to an object to another function. So again, this is an example. So this we have a foo function and bar function. Okay, so here, when foo function of this example object gets called, I want to have a bar function of the same object to be invoked. Again, it could be different object. Okay. Publish and subscribe. So this is PubSub model. It's actually the same thing that you probably have seen in JMS, publish and subscribe. Same thing. Okay, so you're gonna publish something to your topic, and any subscribers who register their interest of getting messages will be actually notified. Okay. All right. So used for asynchronous publication and subscription of topics, and allow separate end components to communicate one another. So publish is used to publish a message. Subscribe is used to subscribe a message, and unsubscribe is unsubscribe that publish the subscriber from the topic. Okay, so I am going to actually use the hands-on lab to explain the event model. Okay. All right, so we have this event model. So let's try the attach name function. So we have a name function called myInit. Okay, and so when myInit is when myInit function is called, and we actually the connecting the myHandler. So myHandler is just displaying alert message. So whenever this link is clicked, okay, so this is the element that has an event of this on-click event, and myHandler will be invoked. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so I'm gonna just open it with the browser. Okay, so if I click this one, and you can see alert message is invoked. Okay, so that is now this is the case that we are now attaching a method of an object, okay, as an event handler. So here we have an object, okay, which is hash literal, and it has a single property of foo, which is a method. So it contains a function object as a value of its property, right? So this is a method, okay? So again here, whenever there is an on-click event on this link object, I want to perform, I want to actually call foo function of this object, okay? So that is foo function of this example object, okay? And so it works pretty much the same. Web browser, and if I click this one, again, you got the alert message. Now, the last one is multiple event handlers. So this is the case that we have a multiple event handlers, okay? So we have example object and example object 2, and example object has a foo function, and example object 2 has a bar function, okay? And then we are attaching two event handlers. One is the foo of object, example object, and bar of object 2 on the same node. Okay, so when on-click event happens on this link, this will be invoked first, and then this will be invoked next. Okay, so let's try it. Okay, click it. So this is from the first event handler, and then this is from the second event handler. So you can see now you can chain multiple event handlers to a node. Last one is publish and subscribe. So here, this is the publish and subscribe model. So let's actually run this code first, and I'll explain the code. Web browser. So we are going to publish so this is a publisher. This is publishing to a topic called the My Topic, and this is a subscriber 1, this is subscriber 2, and this is subscriber 3. Subscriber 1 and 2 are subscribing same topic on My Topic, okay? And then you can also unsubscribe these subscribers from My Topic. So I'm going to start subscribing. So I'm going to click subscriber 1 is subscribing My Topic. Click this one. Okay, I'm going to actually press F12. Now, if you publish, then you can see subscriber 1 received the message that is published by this publisher. Now, I'm going to actually have the second subscriber to subscribe this topic as well. So I'm going to click this one. Now we have two subscribers, subscriber 1 and subscriber 2 subscribing My Topic. Okay, so now if I publish, you can see both subscribers, subscriber 1 and subscriber 2 receive the message. Okay. Now this guy, and now I'm going to actually unsubscribe subscriber number 1. So I'm going to say unsubscribe the My Topic. So now we have only one subscriber, which is a subscriber 2. So now if I publish a message, you can see only subscriber 2 is receiving the message. Now this guy, subscriber 3 is subscribing different topic, like your topic. So even if this guy subscribe it, and if I, the publish it, because I'm publishing My Topic, and this guy is, waiting on your topic, this guy is not going to receive any message. Okay, so that is the behavior. So let's see the code. Okay, so we have these buttons. Okay, publishing, and then we have a subscribe button, unsubscriber 1 button, subscriber 2 button, unsubscriber 2 button, and this is subscriber 3. Okay. And then we are then we actually connecting all these buttons with an event handler. Okay, so when the first button, publisher button, this button is clicked, you are going to publish. So it's going to publish this message, to My Topic, this message. So happy birthday. Okay, this is the subscriber button of the first subscriber. Okay, so when that button is invoked, it's going to subscribe. Okay, so when the message is delivered to this topic, then this function call will be invoked. Okay, so so that's the reason you are going to see subscriber 1 is received that message. This is unsubscribe, and this is again subscriber 2 subscribing My Topic. Okay, and this is unsubscribe of subscriber 2, and this is third subscriber, but this subscriber is subscribing your topic rather than My Topic. Okay, so that's how things work. So hopefully that actually gives you a sense of how publish and subscriber works. Okay, All right, so I felt like I rushed a little bit because I lost about the 15 or 20 minutes. Again, I apologize. I'm gonna just